Cradle, The Rise of the Chosen, Chapter 10. They were in the hallway just outside of the captain's planning room, where they just were, talking and drinking water. She motioned him to follow her down the surprisingly longish hallway. He walked, looking at the neat black walls with the occasional electric torch or painting of nature scenes. Tijima, Moinal, why all this black, he asked. Ayoeti, Sitolo, Bioni. I just feel that's where everything begins, Gionoa answered. Riluti, Hue, Viuti. Anyway, that's your cabin, she said and pointed to the black door behind him. Yeti, this is mine, she pointed to the one just across the hallway. Takuma leaned in to kiss her again, but she moved her head away and smiled lovingly. Liktik, Bior, in the morning, honey, she said, and went into her room and stopped, looked over her shoulder, and then closed the door. Takuma knew he was in love. He was in his bed in his neat and luxurious cabin room, and he was so thankful that he wanted to pray, and it was then that he realized he never committed and prayed to the one God before. He felt ashamed, so he began immediately. Mintul, Edulum, Tikul, Paretelu, Fenulu, Rizu. Father, my God, thank you for this woman. Ayotoma, Mikli, Hizai Yumia. I know it's new, but she is the one. Utijia, Nochuji, please bless our relationship. Whooplo, Nuoti, Giopi, forgive me for not praying to you soon. He thought he'd never fall asleep that night as his cabin lazily rocked back and forth, but he fell asleep without sensing it coming. He awoke to the sound of hurti, seagulls. He was in some earthen hut in a lush white bed with porthole-like windows looking like they were made of packed sand. His heart was beating out of his chest, and he wondered if he was dead, just after he felt that an overwhelming concern for Queen Gionoe. He left the bed and went out the bamboo door to find himself on a beautiful ocean beach, yet barren. Ituliomo! What's going on? He yelled. He decided to calm down and wait to see if he would really wake up, and he did calm down, but there was no other changes. He didn't go anywhere, and the waves crashing softly started to seem like they were mocking him. Just then, as he had that thought, a hurti honked as if to assure him that he wasn't being mocked. Filutio, it's a test. He remembered that sometimes when a poor hero found true love, they went through trials. An excommunicated shaman said it was because the Pojiro was the tribe of the one true God. People hated him after that lesson he taught. He wasn't killed because he vanished in midair, and people say they saw a strange man in a glowing white cloak that day. Takuma wondered if it was Josh. Wasi Zitu, probably was, he said and then chuckled. He sat on the driftwood log and teleported a lit fire pit in front of him and thought. After a few hours, he'd been back in the hut just thinking. He went out to gather seaweed because he wanted true food, as compared to what he could conjure up to pay his way in whatever this was. And so he lived off stewed seaweed for a few months, and water he conjured without another soul around. He wondered what he should do. He looked inland and saw green fields and hills stretching onward for miles. Then he looked into the ocean and noticed it had a purplish hue. Either way would be fine, he thought. So he conjured up parts for a boat and the tools, and put together a stout sailboat, and broke from the coast. Days went on a pleasant sea, and he resigned to conjuring fruits and vegetables and some bread, and made his way deep out to the sea. He'd let his beard grow, and his hair was a thrush of big curly black hair. A thunderstorm approached, and he decided to sleep, because he knew if he died here, it wouldn't really amount to much. He awoke on the beach from which he departed, with his sailboat in pieces around him, and the hut looking warm as he froze upon waking. He'd been drinking coffee in the hut a few moments later when there was a soft knock on his door. He brushed off crumbs from his thick beard and walked over and opened the door. A 60-year-old man with a gray afro and a gray goatee pushed past Takuma and sat in a chair by the fire. Takuma was slightly angered, but subsided just to see if he could get some answers. He sighed and then walked across the plank floor and sat across from the man, and used his power to offer him a steaming mug of green tea. The man nodded and took a sip. Juint Luya, you know love is dumb, the man said angrily. Takuma thought for a moment. Jinitlu, Iotu, ni mimi. Yes, I am a sucker, he said. Yuroti, Jinut, Iriti, Hirotu, Sluchi. You'll be stuck here for her. If you give her up, you'll be free, the old man said with a smile. Iru, Ginturyi, Tikul, Kriti, Chiuli. I dare not give up a blessing from God, Takuma said, and the man put down his mug. He looked down at the table in shame and nodded softly and quickly. Foyet, don't be scared. Nijinu, Viz Yuti, I'm in love too, the old man explained, and then stood up and walked to the door that led to the beach. He stopped and turned around. Oye, Yolot, you've been here for 5 months already. He turned and walked out to the beach. Takuma had broken down and made a garden on the beach behind his hut. He was putting some ghee carrots when he saw a woman walking from the green grass fields inland. She wore a thin but opaque, ornately patterned dress and had long black curly hair and brown skin. He could tell she had a nice smile from even this far. He was sitting on a bench in his garden 20 minutes later when she finally approached, standing in front of him just outside his garden. Kyojio, Jubi, have a seat, nice lady, Takuma said. She smiled, and she did have a beautiful smile, and she sat one over from him on the same bench. She sighed and spoke. Tiyu, Suji, the people are talking, she began. Dichuti, no timi, kum. You just met her, Takuma. When Jimimol, why are you doing this to yourself, she asked. Lo pimi, jin jinu tuyut. I can look into your eye and see you have a family, Takuma began. Yorotie, hayatul tivium. You have a great smile, and it is from love, he explained. Witi, Rietili, Ayotliti, Tiku, Silio, Ririeti. In other words, I have to win this blessing from God. For what seemed like a handful of weeks, neither the old man or the beautiful woman returned. And he was feeling desperately lonely. He just wanted to be with Queen Jinoi, and he couldn't feel further away from her if he actually wanted to. He kept trying to kiss her in his mind, but he'd lost the ability to see it, and he felt feeble because of that. It got to the point that it was painful just to think of her, and what was ironic was that he couldn't stop thinking about her. He stopped drinking water and just had green tea for the most part, because even drinking water reminded him of the time he was in her planning room, feeling so deeply in love with her. The past few days, he only got out of bed to eat at his sad-looking table and used the bathroom. There was finally a knock on the door, and the beautiful woman